Thank you very much. Thank you for the very interesting presentation of use cases that we just heard before. Now, GE is operating mainly on high voltage and medium voltage solution, if I understand that correctly. So I will add some use cases and customer experiences from the low voltage, and in particular from the German smart meter rollout. And I will tell you something about one of our customers, Nessum, and what their experience with our broadband power line solution has been over the last years and in the current mode here. So Nessum is a DSO covering mostly rural areas in the southwest of Germany, so it's mostly mid-sized towns, I would say. Considering to where you come from, you would say villages, but yeah, in Germany we say mid-sized towns. And the German smart meter approach, it has not been part of the presentations here, but of many presentations that we have done. It is not only metering, but it is always also grid control. And that's why we need a high level of security at the at the meter point, at every household. So I would say, in a way, the same security requirement as in the GE solutions, which are stationed on a higher voltage level. And high security, that goes without saying, needs high data rates and low latencies. That is why any kind of broadband solution was a requirement for getting smart meter gateways up and running in Germany. And yeah, what is the go-to solution if you need high data rate and low latency? You go for LTE or 4G, so basically a cellular approach. But yeah, you only get so far with a cellular network if you have no reception in the basement. And that is where Germans usually put their meters. They are not outside before, in front of the house, but they're in the basement. And to just visualize what the situation is usually in these mid-sized towns, you have great LTE reception if you're on street level. And you also have quite nice LTE reception if you're inside a building. Depends a little bit on what type of building. But then you go downstairs and it really drops down, and when you're in front of the meter you just have no connection. So BPL is a technical solution for this problem, because it can just bring communication there using the existing power lines. And I mean, this is an illustration. It is not how it's actually done, but basically we just want to bridge the gap from where cellular networks cannot reach. And as soon as we're overground, I mean, LTE has become just a very easy and also cheap solution. So that is where we immediately go to cellular instead. So that's the technical argument for power line, for broadband power line for the smart metering project. The other question, of course, has always been, okay, but isn't power line so expensive? I found it quite interesting now to see at the GE slides that it is actually an infrastructure set up for a cellular solution. I guess it's for private cellular. Here we have a different thing. We are in communities where public LTE is available everywhere, so I don't have to set up anything if I'm going to use an LTE smart meter gateway. I only have to buy the SIM card, at least that's the idea, and everything is fine. And that is true, and that is really the cheapest solution if you have really low numbers. But it doesn't scale up. For 1,000 LTE devices, you need 1,000 SIM cards with 1,000 contracts paying for the volume. And with broadband power line, it's just the other way around. We have one setup. I mean, this is also illustrative. I have one headend and 3 repeaters, for example. And the more smart meter gateways I install, the cheaper it gets. And I did the calculation there, and this is the result especially for these mid-sized towns. So the curve is even better if you have high density, like in bigger cities. And this is also what has been changing in the German approach, because 5 years ago we were always discussing, okay, we will only equip 10% of German meters with smart meter gateways. And if you look at the 10% point, that's not great for power line, at least not in mid-sized towns. It has always been great for larger cities with higher densities. But now we're talking about getting grid control to everywhere where we have photovoltaics or where we have electric vehicles, and therefore we're talking about having at least 40 to 50% of all meters equipped with smart meter gateways. If you look at that curve, I have an opinion of what is the more economical solution there, and that's something that also our customer Nessum took into consideration and started with some broadband power line installations in 5 communities. Yes, I have not translated the German part here because it was a slide that Nessum themselves did. So, in broadband power line, in contrast to, okay, maybe not in contrast, but I will just say, in broadband power line, what you always do, you have a two-phase approach. First, you want to get your infrastructure in the grid, and afterwards, then you install like the end user. And our end users are the smart meter gateways. So the infrastructure devices are the head-ends and the repeaters, and they're installed in every street cabinet and every substation. So this is the ideal approach: installation of the infrastructure, then the meters. And that is exactly what Nessum did. They put a repeater in every street cabinet, and then they waited for the green LED to stop flashing and get solid green. But it did not work every time. So they came to us and say, okay, what is the problem? Is the power line not working? And we said, don't worry, if you install the smart meter gateways in between, it will eventually connect. And this is exactly what they could observe. They installed the smart meter gateways, and the percentage of the devices that were actually reachable came up to, I mean, this is some older numbers, and now it's almost 100%. So that was nice. But I mean, you all know that if you're starting a project, the most critical days are the first days. You want to have results immediately. Right. You do not want to wait for something that will happen earliest in 3 months. And this is where Nessum can really play out its strength. Because if we're using the Nessum band plan and we're switching to X4, we don't have to worry about this. We will just have connectivity from the starting point. And this is just a really good promise, a promise that we made Nessum at last year's Nessum Europe Day in September, and then we went into the field with our first prototypes, and we went to one of our problematic power lines, which was really long, and with our legacy solution, so the 1901-2010, we had no connectivity at all. So we installed the head-end, and we measured, because we're engineers, we want to see not only that it works, but we want to know why does it work. We measured the signal level at the head-end, and we also measured, okay, this looks, this is how it looks like if you're measuring the signal level and trying to store it on your computer. And then we went to the repeater, and this is the signal that was received there. And if you compare the two, you can maybe imagine a noise floor being something like that, and so the remaining hills and mountains is the usable signal that you have. And we had a stable connection here. Not high speed, but we were still in a megabit region, and we could and we were happy. We went from zero connectivity to a stable connection in the megabit area. And so we installed a mini network here with a head-end and 3 repeaters outside, and we also have our network management system, because we are also convinced you absolutely need one if you have large-scale communication infrastructures, and we had it running there since January. I think we deinstalled it some weeks ago, but it was there up and running for some months, and we had nearly 100% coverage there. And so this is really really amazing, going from 0 connectivity to almost 100. And I mean, one could always say, okay, but 2 megabits, is this really enough? And this is the great thing of Nessum, that if you're really going to install a lot more devices, you can just switch to the band plan of your choice and get more bandwidth out of it. And we have another, we're having another field installation, pilot installation at the moment. I will give you these papers. You can already turn around, but don't start reading. Try to listen to me and read afterwards. Where we have installed a few more devices, and we already have done some first trials, switching from X4 to X2. And as we had in our lab, it really doubles the bandwidth. So it's really a good indication of, okay, we can start with high distances and then switch to high bandwidth once we need them. The product line that we are going to release in February as a whole, therefore consists of this LTE PPL headend, where we just have the LTE uplink included in a waterproof casing with the antenna and everything inside. We have a BPL repeater, which is equipped with a 3-phase voltage metering to give the grid operator also something nice out of it, and not only something that he has to install there. And then the core of the smart metering infrastructure is the smart meter gateway at this. And we also have a product, or we will also release a product that can be used for use cases beyond the German smart metering case. And this is the red and white thing, because it's a generic communication device having 3 interfaces, twice Ethernet, once RS485, and it fits nicely on a DIN rail. So we have customers who already have an existing fiber network throughout the city, and at the end point of their fiber network, they want to expand it. So they're actually coming from district heating, so similar to electricity. They have their grid, they have their substation, so to say. It's a different name in district heating that I forgot. But that is where their fiber network ends, and they want to expand it into the building blocks that they have there. Really interesting use cases, I think. Another thing is establishing local communication for energy communities, where you would usually want communication from one house to the other side of the street. And that is just where Powerline gives a great opportunity to do that. And the third application has something to do also, at least in Germany, usually in the basement, but the basement aspect is not so much the thing here. It is about having a communication network for really many nodes, because usually when you have a parking for lots of electric vehicles, you have like 100, maybe 300 vehicles that could be there, and all want to charge. This cannot happen if you would need copper wires like this, so it has to be controlled, and for control you need real-time communication. And you just cannot put 300 Ethernet cables anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's overground or underground. And this is where Powerline also gives a great opportunity. And I hope that we will realize this project beginning of next year. So what comes next at Netze BW? They really like the results of our mini tests. So they're going to start with a larger pilot, where they have like 300 headends, 300 repeaters, and eventually we'll have 3,000 smart meter gateways, which for Germany is at least nowadays still a specialty, because this would actually mean something like a full rollout of smart meters, where they want to see if this can be actually beneficial or not. And I also want to show you what comes next at PPC, because the X4 mode is really great, and we have made great experiences with it, but it still has its weaknesses in our view, and that is because we also have to comply with regulation in Europe, and that is especially the IEEE 50561-1, and that means we cannot use anything that is below 1.6 megahertz. And I try to visualize it here as precise as possible, so we already lose something here at the low end. And now, when you really have extremely long cables, we're also having the typical low-pass behavior that we all know of cables. So then we come at the point where also X4 is not possible to create communication anymore.
Okay.
But we have the new extended flexible channels. And if I look at this gap that is still left there, X21 and X22 seem extremely interesting to me. And this is what we really want to try out next year, ideally, that we obtain the game that I've written down on top of the slide, that we really have 100% of installation success connectivity, so that anyone who wants to start a Powerline project with us will have his first critical days of the project and everything is up and running and he can go to his boss and it's great. It might only be a few kilobits per second, but this doesn't matter because he will install more devices, we will switch to a higher band plan, and we have our broadband solution that we want there. I should have switched off. You do not see that. Great. So, that has been my presentation, and of course I'm open for questions, and I have the products outside, and we can talk about them or anything else in the coffee break that I think is going to be after this presentation. Thank you very much.